Under the leadership of Bari Weiss, the CBS Evening News isn't just losing the respect of its audience, and the audience itself is also going away. They're also losing an increasing number of the former staff of that show who've made the apparent principled decision not to waste their experience and their talent on a program that's no longer committed to journalism, but instead is just committed to delivering regime-approved propaganda. And we have an example of that, a statement that was sent by a former CBS Evening News producer, Alicia Hastey, to New York Times media reporter Ben Mullen that says this. It talks about how sad she is to have to move on, but she says, there's been a sweeping new vision prioritizing a break from traditional broadcast norms to embrace what has been described as heterodox journalism. The truth is that commitment to those people and the stories they have to tell is increasingly becoming impossible. She had been talking about the commitment she had to making sure that people's stories were being told and all that, regular people. Stories may instead be evaluated not just on their journalistic merit, but on whether they conform to a shifting set of ideological expectations, a dynamic that pressures producers and reporters to self-censor or avoid challenging narratives that might trigger backlash or unfavorable headlines. Walter Cronkite once said in response to critics, if that is what makes us liberals, so be it, just as long as in reporting the news we adhere to the first ideals of good journalism, that news reports must be fair, accurate, and unbiased. Cronkite's idea is one of the best I've encountered. He understands that labels are inevitable, but standards are what matter. What defines journalism is not what critics call it, but whether it remains faithful to those principles. And finally, I've always taken comfort in the belief that if we hold fast to those first ideals, trust follows. But those ideals cannot stand on their own. They require vigilance, they require courage, and unfortunately, it's just not a place where it seems, I guess, even possible anymore on CBS. Thanks to Bari Weiss and the way that the network has surrendered to the Trump administration. Evidently, the New York Post says as of Tuesday, 6 of their 20 producers have already accepted buyouts ahead of impending layoffs. Because not only are they going to do ideological screening, but also you don't need as many journalists if you're not going to be doing journalism. So you can just fire a bunch of them, which I'll note they also did at the Washington Post. Luke, what do you make of all this?
Did you see, can you remind me, Tony, is it Dokapil?
Dukapel, I think, something like that, yeah. The new CBS Evening News guy.
Evening News guys. So maybe those producers leaving are contributing to why the show is and I saw that as he was getting ready to assume that position, since Walter Cronkite was referenced, I can't remember what the quote was, but he said something like, I'm gonna be the next Walter Cronkite, or people are gonna be stunned by how Cronkite-y I'm gonna be. And so then he gets on, and one of his first broadcasts, and this is where I was like, I'm out. Now wait, before I say that, you have the bigger reasons. The attempt to suppress the story on the El Salvadoran prison, yes, and the behind the scenes ideologically skewed decisions that Bari Weiss is making, obviously trying to make it more of a MAGA friendly network, which again is not the sign of unbiased journalism, which was the essence of Cronkite's message. You're always going to have bad faith actors trying to pull you to their side by calling you an agent of the other side. If you always try to please everyone ideologically, you're going to be sacrificing actual journalism. And that's what we're seeing here. There's these outlets who got obsessed after Trump won the election with neutrality as opposed to objectivity, and making it appear like everything's a both sides issue as opposed to just reporting. Sometimes the facts will bolster one side's argument because they'll align more with the facts, and then sometimes it doesn't. And so that's the more substantive part of this. But the moment where I went, all right, I'm out on Tony already, was one of his first broadcasts was him literally saying, I salute you, Marco Rubio. You're the ultimate Florida man. Because it was so crazy that Rubio was getting memed with different photos of him in different outfits. And he said, this is proof that people in Florida just love Marco Rubio. At the end of his monologue, he said, we salute you, Marco Rubio. And it was like, what the hell am I watching? This is so uncomfortable.
That should have been like a satirical segment on The Daily Show. That should not have been a serious segment on the CBS Evening News. You're totally right. That was a very strange moment. And by the way, I just want to point out, it isn't just that they're like losing their like workers and everything. As I said, these moves that Bari Weiss is making are not bringing in an audience. They are losing their audience, and they're sticking with it, which implies that they are not making these changes because they believe it's going to bring in money. They're making it for some other reason, and I don't think it's hard to figure out what.